And now we move on to the sense of touch. It's very important in this day and age. And in fact, so much so, I'm going to start with the first one, which I think a lot of people can relate to right now during COVID. One of your favorite experiences of touch is hugs with friends and loved ones.
Yeah, when I was little, my mum and dad were not very huggy people, and a lot of my extended family in England, you would do a little kiss on the cheek of your nana or whatever, but it wasn't, hugs weren't a big part of the vocabulary. But I had this auntie from India, my mum's older sister, who lived in India and used to visit every couple of years. And it was always really special when she came, partly because she was like a real force of nature, but partly because she was always hugging us. There's all the pictures of us. She's got us in big bear hugs. She was always scrunching us up. And I remember just thinking she was amazing. And she was an amazing person, but she just had absolute, she owned other people. She'd just take them and, make them hers. And I remember as a teenager thinking, when you're trying to find your points of difference to your family and work out who you are, and I remember thinking, I'm going to be a huggy kind of person. I'm going to be the sort of person that hugs my friends when I say goodbye to them. And, when you're 16, it's still quite embarrassing to hug a lot of people. But I remember with my friends at sixth form, so between 16 and 18, I was absolutely determined to start hugging people. And of course, then we all left and went to university. So it became a thing where you would see your friends and then you wouldn't see them for a few months. And so it became a thing you could do. And we would all hug each other. And also then I went to drama school where everyone's hugging each other all the time because they're a bunch of lovies, So for me, and I think actors often are very tactile with each other because you have to be intimate with people immediately. You might have met someone on the day if you're doing filming and they're your brother or they're your lover. So you have to break down all the taboos of our normal society where you go, well, I don't know you very well, so I might shake your hand and that's about it. Or don't get into my personal space. Well, actors have to be in each other's personal space from the moment they meet very often. And so I think actors are very touchy-feely and call each other darling, partly to just break through those kind of normal conventions. So yeah, I'm still a big one for hugging. And so I was listening to an amazing Aboriginal teacher called Tyson Yunkaporta, and he said when the Maoris meet, they touch foreheads and they share each other's breath. Which is kind of like the opposite of what we've been allowed to do in COVID times. And it's that thing of not the problem with what's happened in the past 2 years is that we've subtly been taught to fear human beings. And I think actually our only salvation is human beings. So, to hug people, to touch people, to be in communion with other human beings is really important. And a hug is a real representative of that. And I love hugging people who don't quite expect it and get a bit freaked out. Obviously, you have to, you can't just go around hugging, particularly women. I mean, that would be creepy. But what I mean is I remember working with the writer Alan Ayckbourn, who I adored. And, he's quite sort of proper English person. And I remember I worked with him quite closely for a while, and then I bumped into him at the National Theatre about a year later, and I went, Alan, and I gave him a big hug, and I remember him just going, oh. But I could tell he was delighted because it was a bit of real human contact in a kind of quite odd place. So yeah, hugs, can't get enough of them. Romantic hugs as well. Just knowing that your partner's there and you can give them a hug in the kitchen in the morning or whatever. And also, but yeah, most importantly, just hugs as a non-sexual way of connecting with other human beings.
Love that one. Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. Big hugger. And I went through the same process, exactly the same process. My friend and my best friend, Richard, both of us had that discussion and said, we're going to be huggers. He did exactly the same thing about 17, and we did, and we had the same thing of like pushing through that with a lot of people because we were at a grammar school and it was all boys, and they were all kind of, oh, this is weird, and then
and I think
it worked.
English culture particularly, probably as opposed to American culture or other European cultures, English culture is particularly bad at it.
Very much so. And moving on from a sort of, a tactile with other people, your second choice is lying on the stones on Brighton Beach after a sea swim.
Mm. Well, I've only recently taken to sea swimming. I was always of the opinion that because I'm very thin, that I had no body fat, that it was really wrong to go in a cold sea. I just thought it's probably putting my life in peril. And then I discovered Wim Hof, the wonderful Dutch guy who's they call the Iceman, who swims under glaciers. And he said it's all just a state of mind, and you just breathe, you oxygenate yourself, and you get in the cold water. And not only that, but it's really, really good for you because it's good for your circulation. So Charlotte, my wife's always been brilliant at it, and I used to sit on the beach like in a big coat watching her. But the past 2 years I've been trying to join her, and last year was the first year that I managed all through the winter to get in the sea. So starting in September when it's still warm, and then October it's getting a bit colder, and then you get to Christmas and you go, wow, that's cold now, but I can do that. But then you don't realize that, of course, that January, February, March is actually when it's going to be at its coldest. So and Brighton Beach is a pebbly beach, which a lot of people who live near sandy beaches will be horrified at. But firstly, you don't get sand in your pants. So that is quite useful if you're doing it quite a lot, because, I live in the city. So we go and we'll come down to the beach, we'll have a swim and we'll go home. But secondly, there's two different phenomena. In the summer, you get out of the cold sea and you lie on the stones, and it's like that hot stone therapy, that people pay a lot of money for in your treatment centers, but you get it for free if you lie on a hot beach on the stones, and you can feel on your cold skin because you've been in the sea, and you feel that heat just surging into you, and you go, wow, the sun's been heating these stones all day, and now I'm just getting it for free. So you get the sun on top of you, the heat coming behind you, and it's a really beautiful feeling. And also you're just kind of charged to the earth, you're touching the earth with all your skin. It's really, really, there's lots of talk nowadays about how walking barefoot is a really fantastic thing to do, because you are discharging your positive charge into the negative charge of the earth. And there's lots of research now that shows that it's, you're literally decharging the static in your body, which is very, very healthy, because of course human beings used to walk barefoot, so of course it makes sense. But if you lie on it, you're getting even more of that effect, and it's a wonderful feeling. But in the winter, when you get out of the freezing cold sea, and your skin is just sort of almost numb. You can see it, it's all kind of like, and you lie on the stones. And what's incredible is I've lain on the stones in January or February when it's like 5 degrees, but the stones feel warm still, because they're not warm. If you went in a coat and touched them, you go, bloody hell, those are cold. But because I've just got out the sea, my skin, for about 5 minutes, you get a 5-minute window where you go, oh my God, I'm virtually naked lying on a beach, and there's a grey sky above me. It might even be slightly snowing. This is crazy. And then after about 4 or 5 minutes, you start to go, no, that's unbelievably cold. I've got to get some clothes on immediately. And you quickly get your clothes on. But it's just that incredible feeling of, wow. And again, it's sort of just being absolutely immersed in nature, which is we don't get enough of as urban creatures.
Yeah, I'm seeing there's a theme here with the nature side of things, but I'm not surprised, to be honest. It's one of those. And your final choice, which I think is a really good one to end the five senses section on, is the touch of your kids' faces when they were newborn.
Yeah, when Dan and Molly, my kids, were born, I remember, because when they're newborn, not once they're a few months old, they become almost like us, and they have beautiful skin, but it's sort of, relationally fairly similar to ours. But I remember when they're newborn and you touch their cheek, you sort of almost can't feel it. It's so delicate and soft that I remember I used to they'd be asleep and I'd put my finger to their tiny little face, and I'd go, am I touching it yet? Am I actually making contact? Because there seemed to be almost nothing there. It's so they're so impermanent. They've only just arrived. And sometimes, and also you'd see they'd be asleep, but you'd see their little face just kind of slightly react, because when they're newborn, their faces are doing this newborn babies kind of do this thing of like they can't quite believe they're here, and they keep going, what the hell is going on? Where am I? It seems to be that they're doing that, and they can't see very well. And I remember, just because they're so tiny, and you can't help resist. You just want to touch them and just kind of convince yourself that they're real. And they're a person. There's a person, particularly with our first, my boy, there's a person has arrived in your home who wasn't there before and is now there. And it's a bit terrifying because you're also in charge of that person. But you can't, I used to pass by, he used to sleep in our big double bed in the day. And I'd go by and he'd be this tiny little figure sleeping in our bed. And I'd just have to go in and just touch his face to just go, no, he's real. He's a real thing. And not only is he a real living thing, but he's a human being. He's not a cat or a hamster, another sweet little thing. He's a human being, has arrived and is there in our house. Yeah. So, and touching their face seemed to symbolize that. It was really, never forget it.
So your 3 choices for people at home to recap on are the feel of your kids' faces when they were newborn and that almost translucent quality that they had. The sense of lying on stones on Brighton Beach after a beach swim, and hugs with friends and loved ones. One of those is Mr. Paul Bazley's favourite sense of touch, but which is it? Over to you.